Good evening, good evening. This is Comrade Front Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas here in the United States. How are you all doing? And I know it's been quite amazing roller coaster. But however, I continue to appreciate all of you out there that have stood up for the effectively and the fight for the people of Southern Cameroons Ambazonians. I know you all there are doing excellent and wonderful job, and I want to thank everybody that are working hard for this marvelous job to ensure that the sovereign state of Southern Cameroon must prevail. The people of Southern Cameroon was never a conquered nor a colonial territory of the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon. And I continue to appreciate all of us that actively engage and bring the content of this message to the international community to understand the people of Southern Cameroon are fighting a just war, a war that shouldn't have occurred in the first place. A war that, if things were going right, the people of Southern Cameroon would have been respected. Imagine that the people of citizens of Southern Cameroon watch their statehood crumble because the power that be choose the wrong reason and validate the wrong reason and portray the wrong reason and claim to be an accuracy. And that is what is bringing this war of Ambazonian sovereignty. So we must stand for and denounce all those who choose the wrong reason and escalate it to be the right reason. And this is why I am here this evening speaking on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroon. Fellow brothers and sisters, we were never a conquered territory nor a colonial territory of La Republique du Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon leadership, as you see from Dr. Endele came to this relationship in good faith. He came with love, he came with admirations. He felt that together the state of Southern Cameroon and the state of La Republique du Cameroon can work collaboratively for the common good of both nations. But unfortunately, La Republique came with the wrong reason. They came with the conquer aim in mind. And that is what brought them to conquer the people of Southern Cameroon, despite the fact that Foncha knew he was an honest gentleman that wanted to come to work in collaboration so that people of the Anglo-Saxon way of life and those of the Francophone way of life can emblem and facilitate the common goodness of the two nations. But that is not the case of La Republique du Cameroon. La Republique came to conquer. They came to slaughter as the ongoing genocide in Southern Cameroon territory. Remember, the Southern Cameroon was supposed to be a nation that their independence was deprived by the British government for personal egoistic interests rather than for the interests in which it was created. United Nations Resolution 1514 called for decolonizations. It did not call for partial decolonizations. Hello? Hello? I guess I don't know who. Anyway, so I thought probably somebody calling to contribute for this discussion, but unfortunately it is not. But anyway, so let's listen to one of La Republique members, and that is the person that have always been spoken openly since this momentum began. Now let's take a listen to these La Republique citizens.
Dont ils ne veulent pas, et la cession qui n'est pas leur premier choix. Ça fait donc intrinsèquement, la cession ne peut avoir qu'un grand nombre de partisans là-bas. Même si les personnes peuvent reprocher la violence, mais il n'est pas certain qu'elle reprouve l'action de la sécession contre l'État unitaire. C'est ça qui est le problème de fond. Les gens pensent que cette occupation militaire, sans l'adhésion de l'opposition, est une colonisation. Et nous avons posé le problème à Onoso dans une logique coloniale. C'est-à-dire, que vous vouliez ou pas, on vous occupe parce qu'on est fort. Et c'est ça le grand danger. Moi, j'ai ri. Les histoires de sécession. Parce que sécession, c'est une libération. Dans une certaine mesure. C'est-à-dire, les gens pensent qu'ils sont pas les combattre au long. À tort ou raison, de toute manière, ça qui se dit. Ce qu'on vit au Nozo, même les victoires de l'armée, encore que c'est étrange. Avant, il n'y avait même rien. Il y avait que les sous-préfets. Quand un sous-préfet parlait, tout le monde tremblotait. Aujourd'hui, on en est au point où il n'y a plus aucun sous-préfet parce que tout le monde a fui. Et il faut que l'armée aille imposer son ordre sans l'avis de la population. C'est ça la tragédie. Les anglophones ont demandé la réforme de l'État. Tant que le mot unitaire figure dans la Constitution, il n'y aura jamais de paix au Nozo. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons atteint le niveau du symbolisme. C'est-à-dire qu'en fait, il s'agit moins du contenu même de la décentralisation que de l'image que renvoient les termes. Et le terme unitaire renvoie l'image d'une absorption. Et ce peuple n'acceptera jamais cette absorption. Parce que dans leur esprit, en 61, on a créé la République fédérale avec deux États. Un État absorbé l'autre. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'il n'a pas, le gouvernement n'a pas été assez sage pour éviter de poser son action comme une lutte coloniale. Et si les populations refusent, le fait que les populations refusent et le fait qu'on a échoué, c'est même si on occupe, parce qu'on a les moyens, c'est l'armée quand même du Cameroun, contre des rebelles qui sont munis d'armes traditionnelles, artisanales. Donc même si on occupe, mais dès lors que les anglophones n'adhèrent pas, ce n'est pas très différent d'une puissance étrangère qui vient occuper le Cameroun, comme les États vont occuper l'Irak. Donc ça c'est plutôt la domination militaire, ce n'est pas une victoire. Et c'est là que nous allons aussi dans le risque posé par le dialogue, parce que quel que soit le cas, on va dialoguer. Mais il y a un risque mortel pour le Cameroun, pour le gouvernement, d'aller au dialogue sans avoir programmé l'État fédéral. Pourquoi? Parce que si le Cameroun doit aller au dialogue avec l'adhésion d'une grande partie des anglophones, d'un grand groupe anglophone, c'est-à-dire les fédéralistes. Le gouvernement doit absolument avoir l'appui des fédéralistes pour résoudre le problème anglophone au mieux. Mais s'il maintient son État unitaire, il sera obligé de discuter avec les anglophones. Et dès lors qu'on a un débat entre francophones et anglophones, nous rentrons.
Alors, on est bien là dans la complexité. Oui, donc peut-être vous voulez réagir rapidement.
Directement,
je vous ai vu tiquer, vous avez l'impression...
The issue on the Anglophone piece, I won't go into detail on that. I think the article plus the video this morning did a very good job of explaining the history of how it got to the point where we are today. In October of 2017, when it came kind of to a head, the Anglophone states said we want to actually form our own state, the Ambazonia state. There have been issues there with atrocities, issues with allegations of law of war issues, and this is something that brings all this to a head. Over the last several months or so, the State Department has put on hold several security force assistance programs. Right before the election in October, I, with the ambassador, went and paid a visit with President Villa, and we had a very direct conversation with him with regards to investigation of these atrocities, transparency of these atrocities, and appropriate battlefield behavior. Since that time, the State Department has made a decision not to allocate significant money, but at the same time, they've released some money that's been on hold to things like Scan Eagle and Cessna aircraft that assist in the Boko Haram fight in the north. We still have programs that we continue with them, all kind of small engagements as well as exercises. We did have, we talked about the state partnership program with Nebraska. We put that on hold, and in conjunction with the ambassador, AFRICOM, we decided not to pursue that because it wouldn't have been a good place for that particular group to be, so we put a halt to that. So the bottom line is right now in Cameroon, they have been a good partner with us counterterrorism-wise, but you can't neglect the fact that they have there are alleged atrocities and what's going on there. And so we continue to take our cues from the State Department and from the ambassador, and our level of engagement will continue, but not get out ahead of what the State Department would say is if we have to take other actions. We were very emphatic with President Villa that the behavior of his troops, the lack of transparency, could have a significant impact on our ability to work with them.
Great.
That was the U.S. Commander, the former U.S. commander of AFRICOM, and that is what he clearly stated. And that was the moment that the people of Southern Cameroon expect. But unfortunately, nothing is forthcoming. But however, the people of Southern Cameroon are prepared for their sovereignty to be recognized. The people of Southern Cameroon was never a conquer nor a colonial territory of La Republique du Cameroun. The people of Southern Cameroon came into this relationship in good faith. They were very loyal, they were very respectful, and the leader of Southern Cameroon, as you've seen on the left side, just underneath the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, that was the Prime Minister of Southern Cameroon. That was the person who initiated this relationship that we have with La Republique du Cameroun. He was very honest. He was a gentleman. He respected in integrity. He feels that the people of Southern Cameroon with La Republique du Cameroun will have a genuine relationship. Coming from the Anglo-Saxon way of life and La Republique Francophone way of life, two nations together could emblem and bring a good, faithful, for the common good of the people of Southern Cameroon and La Republique du Cameroun. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. La Republique felt that we were more of a conquered territory, and that is what they initiate. And our people were continue to destabilize and downgrade our people, and eventually place what is so-called La Republique du Cameroun. In La Republique du Cameroun, there is essentially no people of Southern Cameroon exist in nowhere to be found. And yet the world remained blindfolded, and no one cared to raise an alarm until when the people of Southern Cameroon, the simple lawyer demonstrating, instead of La Republique du Cameroon to show some leniency and listen to the people of Southern Cameroon, they show how they have their military and that they can conquer and destabilize the people of Southern Cameroon. That moment has long come and go, but we are here now to request that the statehood of Southern Cameroon must be recognized, and otherwise La Republique du Cameroon will continue to bleed, will bleed to death. That was the bleeding. That's just the beginning of the bleeding that is just begun on La Republique du Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon hasn't started yet. So we are going to continue to inflict pain upon La Republique until they relinquish their control over the people of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon was never a conqueror nor a colonial territory of La Republique du Cameroon. That's the bleeding that is continuing in Southern Cameroon. The Republique respects the territorial integrity of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon has asked La Republique to continue to relinquish its control that is claimed over the people of Southern Cameroon territory. The people of Southern Cameroon was never a conqueror nor a colonial territory of La Republique du Cameroon. We have asked La Republique, pull out all your colonial administrative authority in Southern Cameroon and allow the territory of Southern Cameroon as it was. Because the people of Southern Cameroon hasn't started yet. They haven't engaged La Republique yet. It's just the beginning. Respect the territorial integrity of Southern Cameroon and pull out all your colonial administrative authority over Southern Cameroon and allow the people of Southern Cameroon to begin to re-assimilate its continual management they assumed prior to this relationship. The relationship has not worked and has not been efficiently. The people of Southern Cameroon cannot be living in Nigeria while a foreign occupier, La Republique du Cameroon, occupy the territory of Southern Cameroon. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war, and the war is real.
On avait la possibilité de les intégrer directement dans le système francophone, qui était celui de la majorité du peuple, 80%. Mais je crois que les pays sont soucieux aujourd'hui d'affirmer leur identité. Et c'est pour ça que nous mettons sur pied un statut spécial qui reconnaît la spécificité de la zone anglophone, mais elle reste dans l'intégrité territoriale du Cameroun. Ça donne beaucoup de problèmes.
Please, if you, we understand.
There's tremendous interest within all branches of the U.S. government towards this crisis. The United States is greatly concerned with what's going on in Cameroon. I mean, we consider Cameroon a long-term friend. We consider it essential for the stability in that region of Africa. As we all know, Cameroon has tremendous potential. It has phenomenal natural resources, has a highly educated, industrious, entrepreneurial population. It could easily rocket forward in progress and prosperity and stability. So because of that, the United States is greatly concerned with events there. And the frustrating thing is a lot of this was needless. As I said, we all know the history, we all know where this is coming from, and the Anglophone population of Cameroon would very much like to be considered as first-class citizens, and there is a sense that they feel like, and they have felt a long time, like they're second-class citizens. It is up to dialogue and true dialogue to move this process forward.
7,000 refugees from Cameroon registered with the UNHCR. Thousands more have been forced to flee their homes, and dozens of villages have been ethnically cleansed. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and High Commissioner for Refugees, 437,000 from the Anglophone regions have been displaced, whilst the charity Protection Approaches says that 3.3 million are in need of humanitarian assistance. Amnesty reports that 450 to 500 civilians and 185 members of the security services have been killed. UNICEF estimates that 58 schools have been destroyed, 47 political leaders are being held without charge, and a recent Amnesty report refers to, and I quote, arbitrary arrests, torture, unlawful killings and the destruction of property. The Catholic Bishops' Conference has called it, quote, inhuman, blind, monstrous violence. And of the October election, Archbishop Samuel Cleda, the president of the Bishops' Conference, says, one has the impression election results are decided before voting takes place. My lords, we can all share in these horrendous statistics, but what I want to do is this evening focus on what conclusions we can draw from the United Kingdom's dismal approach to this situation. More than ever, with Britain's potential departure from the European Union, we must seek to define our role in the world. And it would be helpful to know from the Noble Baroness the Minister whether, for instance, human rights issues were assessed before, for instance, the New Age natural gas deal was announced, what consideration has been given to targeted sanctions, and whether this crisis figures in the Foreign Secretary's recent commitment on atrocity prevention. My lords, the government mustn't suggest that this is a level playing field conflict in a civil war between equal sides. Too often in the past, in Bosnia, in Rwanda, in Darfur, the United Kingdom chose the path of moral equivalence, hinting that both sides were as bad as each other is the easy way out. In a previous generation, this was known as appeasement. Moral equivalence signals that we cannot be expected to pass judgment on which side is more to blame for the conflict. Instead, we issue the usual calls for a cessation of violence and a negotiated settlement, or we frame political conflicts as if they were natural disasters requiring aid, and we're very generous at sending aid rather than political solutions. At its worst, in Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur, we have portrayed the persecution of unarmed civilians by repressive governments as a result of ancient ethnic hatreds, thereby dehumanizing the victims and denying the legitimacy of the protesters who yearn for the rights that we take for granted. By citing ancient ethnic hatreds, we absolve ourselves of the obligation under international law to stop the killing. It's also disingenuous to defend our tepid response by claiming that the circumstances present us with a simple binary choice between wringing our hands in dismay or putting British boots on the ground. This is to ignore the potential for soft power available to the international community, be it concerted and sustained diplomatic pressure, carefully targeted sanctions, or international justice. The grievances fueling the violence in Cameroon did not erupt overnight. We had plenty of warning, but we chose not to listen to Cameroon's Anglophone minority. Anglophones represent 20% of the population, but for years there was only one Anglophone member of the 36-person cabinet in Yaoundé, just one example of their systematic marginalisation. My lords, we shouldn't underestimate the influence we have, but it speaks volumes that we left it to the American ambassador to express his disapproval of the Cameroonian government's brutal response to peaceful protests. For decades, the Francophone government has ignored the pleas of moderate representatives of civil society, such as church leaders. Calls for a federal solution were ignored by President Biya, 36 years in power, fueling the calls for secession and thereby polarizing opinion. Breaking point came when the Francophone government sought to impose French laws in the French language in Anglophone courts and sent Francophone teachers speaking French into English schools. They responded to peaceful protest with disproportionate force. The International Crisis Group reports that a government helicopter, for instance, hovered outside a church, shooting Anglophone worshippers as they emerged from Mass. Inevitably, disproportionate actions led to the current escalation. In the face of all this, my lords, there is nothing admirable about being even-handed in the face of the suffering of the Anglophone community. The United Kingdom should support the Anglophone community's peaceful civil society leaders in seeking genuine and inclusive talks. We need a targeted strategy for atrocity prevention and, my lords, a commitment to bring to justice those responsible for human rights violations wherever they occur.
My Lords, I too would like to thank my noble friend Lord Boateng for initiating this debate and too for his passionate introduction. I don't want to repeat his excellent background to the complex and contested decolonisation process that he referred to, but as my noble friend Lord McConnell highlighted, particularly since the federal arrangements were scrapped in '72, the English-speaking Cameroonians have complained bitterly that they are politically, economically and linguistically marginalised, and of course the current...
Le ministère de la Défense, en partenariat avec la Cameroun Radio and Television, présente Honneur et Fidélité.
Chers compatriotes, bonjour. Les choses sont désormais très claires. L'état d'âme du président Biya ne lui permet plus de maîtriser les affaires. Le clan Nanga, mené par Ferdinand Ngongo et sa cousine Chantal Biya, a pris tout un pays en otage. Ils ont employé des comédiens comme Jean de Dieu Momo, Mesanga Nyamding, Atanganji et Chief Diongute pour ne dire. Chers compatriotes, l'heure est grave. Réveillez-vous et venez à la défense de notre cher pays. L'armée camerounaise, écoutez ceci. Sachez que les armes que vous portez sont achetées avec l'argent du contribuable camerounais. Cessez d'être télécommandés par des bandits au nom des hommes. Il ne s'agit pas de massacrer le peuple au gré des vampires qui passent pour les membres du gouvernement. Posez-vous la question de savoir pourquoi la plupart des soldats qu'on envoie faire une guerre inutile en Ambazonie sont Bamileke et Wadjo. C'est une façon maligne de réduire la population du Sahel et celle Bamileke qui ne cesse de grandir. On se demande pourquoi mener une guerre qu'on ne gagnera jamais. La raison est simple. C'est une occasion en or de massacrer les soldats Bamileke. C'est aussi une occasion pour apprendre une leçon aux ressortissants du Sahel en les envoyant mourir aussi en Ambazonie. La suite d'une mission qui n'a pas abouti après l'attentat d'avril 1984. Les Brûles ne comprendront jamais cette politique. Pendant qu'on envoie les soldats Wadjo, Sawa et Bamileke restent au bureau. Cependant, le clan Betty continue à puiser de la caisse de l'État à gogo. À qui mieux? Quel est le rôle de l'armée camerounaise à ce stade? Massacrer son peuple ou le protéger? L'armée fait la même chose. Les mêmes événements se sont déroulés avec des suites très favorables au Zimbabwe, au Burkina Faso et tout récemment au Soudan. Alors pourquoi pas au Cameroun? L'Afrique francophone est-elle maudite? Les forces armées camerounaises, réveillez-vous. Chassez les diables et négociez avec le Cameroun anglophone. Mieux vaut vivre en bon voisinage que dans les hostilités. Que vous le veuillez ou pas, les anglophones sont partis. Tout ce qui nous reste, c'est de chasser les diables et essayer de résoudre nos problèmes internes. Je vous remercie. À bon entendeur, salut.
You all saw the name of the person. That is La Republique propagandist. That you saw the conduct titles. It's a British, that I don't know whether it's a Marine, but it has to do with British government military officials that is acting as a propagandist of La Republique du Cameroun and distorted. But the people of Southern Cameroon, as I bring this to light for the world to see and understand the propagandists that are going out. But the key factor here now is the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon must be recognized. Recognize the statehood of Southern Cameroon is the key moving forward. The people of Southern Cameroon was never a colonial territory of La Republique du Cameroun. So therefore, it is imperative, respecting the territorial integrity of Southern Cameroon, now effectively, immediately, is the key moving forward. La Republique has no ownership in Southern Cameroon. La Republique has no control in Southern Cameroon. Let La Republique remedially dislodge its military in Southern Cameroon, including his colonial leader, colonial administrator, governors, whoever. Those are La Republique initiatives to control the people of Southern Cameroon by superimpose its citizens, to control with its military affiliates, to control the people and the life of the Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon breathe in natural air or oxygen because of the glue, La Republique glued to Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon should have had their independence. Of course, this is not something that I made up. This is a United Nations resolution that I have here with me, and it specifically states, I'm going to go through some of the key elements, on the question of Southern Cameroon. But before I go to that, let me first read about the British government. On reference on 7th of May, on the 7th of May 2021, in response to my letter, the British will refer to the British West African oppression. In response to my letter, in these letters, they recognize the state of Southern Cameroon. However, they want that we should retire back to the 1961 agreement. The 1961, which La Republique du Cameroun over time arbitrarily destroyed, dismantled, and replaced with a francophone-led colonial administrative authority. This is the letter written by the Commonwealth Development Office in West African Oppression. Dear Mr. Daniel Funta, thank you for your email on 1st of March to the West African Department of Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office about Cameroon. We apologize for the delay in reply. Further to our letters to you on the 2nd of November, the UK government recognized and respect the outcome of the 1961 plebiscite. The 1961 plebiscite. We remain deeply concerned about the situation in the northwest and southwest of Anglophone. Hold that a moment. So, the Southern Cameroon has been dismantled and placed what La Republique called this time the northwest and southwest, a classification that they can control and glue upon that has never had an authority authorized by the government of Southern Cameroon, when La Republique came to Southern Cameroon, there was a government of Southern Cameroon. La Republique did not just came and walk through the people of Southern Cameroon. There was a government, and the United Nations specifically state the government of Southern Cameroon and the government of La Republique shall in due course discuss. In fact, I have seen the world just turn a blind eye, a blind faith. Let's look, you know.
The period of escalating violence and displacement goes back to when lawyers protested.
J'ai eu Paul Biya au téléphone avant de venir à l'Union africaine. D'abord parce que je savais qu'il ne serait pas présent. Comme je visitais un de ses voisins, il était important que nous ayons un échange. Écoutez, nous avons parlé des grands sujets en cours. Le Cameroun a clairement un défi qui est la cohésion, la stabilité de l'État. Nous savons les tensions qu'il y a dans la région anglophone. Et là aussi, j'ai apporté tout mon soutien au gouvernement pour qu'il puisse justement aller vers la stabilité. Je pense que la stabilité va aussi vers la reconnaissance, les éléments de pluralisme, parfois de décentralisation qui permettent de régler ces problèmes et ces tensions. Je pense que ce dont la région a besoin, c'est de stabilité. Et ce dont la région a besoin, c'est d'ouverture, de trouver les bons modèles de régulation. Ce n'est pas au président de la France de le dire, mais d'accompagner toutes ces réformes de décentralisation, de liberté régionale qui sont offertes dans un cadre national clair. Je pense que beaucoup de ces sujets aussi peuvent trouver une issue favorable par une meilleure intégration régionale. Et je l'ai dit, moi je crois beaucoup à la force de l'intégration régionale, pour le Nigeria comme pour le Cameroun, au sein de la CEDEAO. Et tout ce que la France peut faire pour faciliter, y compris dans le cadre d'une politique monétaire qui devrait être repensée, la France le fera.
Of course, that was French President Emmanuel Macron speaking in Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. First, he's calling about decentralization. Why was the state of Southern Cameroon uprooted? France was the architect of disruption of the Southern Cameroon. France participated, France initiated, France carried every aspect. La Republique du Cameroon did not, in every circumstance, did it alone. France initiated every aspect of the disruption and dismantling the state of Southern Cameroon. And they continued in that aspect. They're talking about decentralization. What is a decentralization? Of course, if the UK authority recognize that we should return back to the 1961, of course, the 1961 did not call for decentralization. It called the Southern Cameroon has a statehood, and that's why I have the picture of the Prime Minister of Southern Cameroon. Prior to 1961, Mr. Fonja. And that is his pictures just underneath this broadcast, underneath the US Secretary of State. Let me go back here. He talked about the Northwest and Southwest. That's the disclassification, the dismantling of the state of Southern Cameroon by the Francophones, La Republique du Cameroun, dismantled into pieces and particles so that it will facilitate for them to drain our resources and fed the French. That is the purpose. And they have continued in that aspect to feed the French, the France. That is all. While the people of Southern Cameroon are living in a belly, crumbs of bread, in their own home, in their own territory, in their own land. What a diabolical disgruntledness. Let's look at it again. Let's read from the letter sent by the UK government. That in visit to the Cameroon in March 2021, the Minister of Africa, President Biya, Ngute, and Foreign Minister Mbela, where they stressed the importance of peaceful resolution to the crisis. During his visit, the Minister of Africa also met the President of the West African Regional Assembly, civil society, political opposition. There is one funny thing that I just dismay about the UK authority. First, those individuals whom he listed are not elected elected by the citizens of Southern Cameroon and therefore do not represent the voice of the people of Southern Cameroon. They are not elected by the people of Southern Cameroon and do not represent the voice of the people of Southern Cameroon and therefore is void. They have never been elected by the people of Southern Cameroon and they do not meet the aspiration of the people of Southern Cameroon and therefore their voice and point of view is void. The UK government shared the experience of conflict resolutions with the Cameroon government. We continue to call for exclusive dialogue. What is the time frame? What is the time frame? Let's look at the UK. UK joined the European Union. In few days, they knew that the relationship doesn't workable. They dismantled the European Union and they resided back to UK without a single gunshot. The people of Southern Cameroon has lost over 30,000 people that has deliberately, intentionally killed by the military of La Republique du Cameroon in Southern Cameroon territory. Does that ring a bell? Does that ring that the people of Southern Cameroon do not want to live together under the umbrella of a foreign nation, La Republique du Cameroon? Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war and the war is real. And we must stand with our shoulder together and eliminate La Republique in Southern Cameroon territory. They have a choice and we must stand and fight the enemy. This is Comrade Funton Daniel speaking live from the great state of Texas on the question of Ambazonia sovereignty. It is imperative that the world need to understand that the state of Southern Cameroon is crucial. It's critical that the world must recognize the statehood of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon want their sovereignty recognized. The world cannot twist the fact. The world cannot bend the fact. The world cannot do anything. The world must recognize that it is imperative to do the right thing for the goodness of all people of mankind. The world cannot force the people of Southern Cameroon to live under the umbrella of a foreign nation, La Republique du Cameroon. Therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon are determined to see the last person standing, that their sovereignty was not going to be shaken and live under the brutal regime of Pobia. Therefore, we are asking the world to do the right thing. I will continue this argument and this phase of defense. So stay tuned and have a good night. This is Comrade Funton Daniel speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States, on the question of Southern Cameroon Ambazonia War of Independence. Have a good night.